Okay, let's start. Yes, gentlemen, ladies? Queen Esther, the class you've all been waiting for. I should have looked up a joke. I didn't think of any good jokes for Esther, but it's okay. The reason why we're doing this class tonight, not like the schedule, is because I really wanted to get to, first of all, good evening to everyone that's watching. Good evening, Eric's watching us. Good evening, Gail. Good evening, Shira. Good evening, everyone. And I should mention that tonight's class is in the memory of Yitzchak, Tzvi, and Yosef. Okay. I could have given a class last week on Queen Esther. But there is a fundamental misrepresentation of the Purim story that has seeped into American culture that I wanted to address. That's a very, very audacious way of starting a class. I know, it's dangerous. I didn't plan on saying it that way, but it's exactly what I want to address. There is a misrepresentation of the Purim story that has seeped into American culture that has sadly twisted the Purim story to fit modern day social thought and culture, which happens with a lot of things. And so tonight's class will not only be a class on the story of Queen Esther and on the lessons we can take from the story of Queen Esther, it will also be setting straight the record of what was the true heroism of Esther and how, as I title the class, she was a true feminist. Now, when we talk about feminism, I was shocked when I first saw this. There are many people today that will tell you that Vashti is the real feminist. Vashti is a heroine. And again, it's dangerous to do what I'm doing because I'm going to straight up confront a misrepresentation of the Purim story, the way it's going around. There is actually a kid's book about Vashti. I forgot the title now. Someone showed it to me. You know, how basically, what's the story of Vashti if you read the basic text of the Bible? She was the woman that had so much self-dignity and so much self-pride that when her husband asked her to come dance in front of all the men of the party naked, well, she was wearing a crown, but besides for her crown, besides for the crown, only her crown, what did she say? No way! There you go. Standing up for women's rights. She wouldn't be treated like a piece of meat. She wouldn't be treated just like a pretty body with no content. There is Vashti, our heroine. Okay? Now, first of all, besides for what we're going to address soon, that's not a correct description of the story. It's just absolutely not correct. Vashti had danced naked in front of men many times. This wasn't the first time she had done that. Secondly, Vashti was going to go dance in front of the men. She was ready to go to the party. She was, I can't say she was all dressed because she wasn't really dressed, but you know what I'm saying. I guess there's still preparing you do. You make your hair, I don't know. So she was all ready to go. She did her hair, she did her makeup, she was ready. And then, I believe we mentioned this in the class on Vashti, God sent, she got afflicted with tsaras, of leprosy. And the angel came and attached an appendix or a appendage or a tail or whatever to her back, and the tail started to go out of her back. And she looked hideous. She looked ugly. She couldn't go. So when Vashti says to her husband, I'm not coming, it's not because she had this sudden new feminist awakening of the inner value of a woman, and that she refused to flaunt her body to impress men. That is absolutely not what happened. In fact, if her body would have looked as beautiful as it normally did, she absolutely would have been there flaunting her body in front of the men. So to pretend like she didn't go because she had the sense of dignity is not correct. Simply not correct. In addition, as we mentioned in the class on Vashti, I think I mentioned, she had different maids that would work for her. I did mention this. And on Shabbos, she had Jewish maids. She deliberately made the Jewish girls work for on Shabbos. And how did she make them work for her? Naked. In their birthday suit. She did not allow them to be dressed in her own home. As a form of humiliation to the Jewish women that worked for her, she made them work naked. She didn't give them the dignity of being dressed. So to pretend like Vashti is a woman that cares about other women or cares about women's rights is not true. She literally was a sadistic, evil woman, as we discussed 2 weeks ago, who tortured the girls that worked for her. She had pleasure from it. She kept them naked and humiliated on purpose. So anyone that ever tries to tell you that Vashti cared about women's rights is at best, they're uneducated. At best. At best. That's not the way the story went. But it's not just about if Vashti mistreated her Jewish maids or if she she viewed herself as beautiful material. She probably was. She always looked perfect, and wherever she went, and if she would look beautiful, she would have gone out. But I don't want to spend today's class addressing why Vashti is not a feminist. What I want to do is I want to realign what the term feminism means, not in a secular sense, but from the Torah's perspective. Because Esther is undoubtedly one of the heroes in Jewish literature, in Jewish thought, in Jewish history. There's very few women in all of history that can come to the level of Esther in their heroism, in their bravery, in their courage, etc. And yet, if you read through the Esther story, the Megillah, on a basic, simplistic level, just reading the basic text without any commentary, which is obviously not the way Jews read the Torah. We have, every text has to have the understanding, the interpretation. If you read through the story of the Megillah, the first impression we're going to get of Esther, the way I'm going to portray it now, only reading simple text, is that Esther was actually a very weak, passive, submissive woman that had no will or strength of her own. What do we know about Esther? We know, first of all, she was an orphan, right? Well, let's look at it. I didn't make a sheet of paper. There was a lot of text I want to go through, basically the whole Megillah tonight. But what's our introduction to Esther? Torah tells us that she was an orphan. Ki ein la of aim. She had no parents. She was the cousin. By the way, I made a mistake last week. I have to correct myself. Last week I said that Esther was the niece of Mordechai. That's a mistake. They were cousins. So on the record, I am publicly correcting that mistake. So she's a cousin of Mordechai, and for she had neither father nor mother. Okay. The maiden was finally featured and beautiful of appearance, and when her father and mother had died, Mordechai adopted her as his daughter. Vayhi lebas. She was to him as a bas, as a daughter. The rabbis tell us, it's an interesting way of writing it. He adopted her. She was to him a bas, a daughter. Don't read it bas, read it bayis. What does bayis mean? A house. Vayhi lebayis. She was to him a house, meaning a wife. So he adopted this girl. I don't know the age difference. I don't know how old Mordechai was. And however, it doesn't say anywhere that I'm aware of the age of Mordechai. But the point is, it doesn't say the age of Esther either for that matter. The point is, we don't know their ages, but at some point, this adopted girl became the wife of Mordechai. She went from being an adopted daughter to being the bayis, to being the house, the wife of Mordechai. Okay, now what happens?
Wait, can I just
Sure.
She went from being the daughter to the wife, or she went from being an orphan to the wife?
The orphan.
An
Orphan. He raised her. He raised her.
So did he marry her immediately?
No. I don't think he married immediately. No, of course not. She, as I mentioned, she was orphaned from her birth. Her mother died in childbirth. Her father died before she was born. Her mother died when she was born in childbirth. She had no parents. So he raised her. And at some point he said, "Why should I'm going to marry." I don't know the age differences, so I don't know. As far as I know, the Megillah never tells us once, not his name or her name or her age. Sorry. Okay. What happens in the story? Vashti is killed. Achashverosh is looking for a new queen. There's a whole beauty pageant, and the word goes out that everyone's to come before the king to be interviewed for this job. The interview process was a really cool interview process. Basically, he went to the king's palace for a year. So I'm going to tell you the process in a second. So let me just keep on reading the story. So it came to pass that all the king's biddings and decree was announced, and they were all being brought to the capital, to Shushan. So the girl was basically taken from the courtyard, from the marketplace. She was kidnapped, and she was brought there as well. In fact, the commentaries tell us at the beginning she was hiding in the house. She was afraid to leave the house. Esther was an exceedingly beautiful woman, exceedingly beautiful, and she was hiding. And eventually, at one point, she left the house, and she was seen, and she was arrested, kidnapped, taken to the palace against her will. She's in the palace, and she's put under the charge of Haggai, guardian of the woman. So she's under Haggai. Haggai is in charge of taking care of her. Now, the girl was pleasing in his eyes, and she found favor before him, and he prepared her cosmetics and allowance of delicacies along with 7 attendants, etc., etc. But here's a verse I want to tell you. Esther had not told of her people or her kindred, her family, for Mordechai had instructed her not to tell. That's reading the text. She does not tell Haggai or any other people that are doing any paperwork that they're doing, what's your nationality, what's your this. She refuses to tell all the people in charge of the contest what's her nationality, who is her family. Why? Because Mordechai told her not to say. Why did Mordechai say not to say? Mordechai somehow felt that there's something here. He understood that there's some divine plan. And he felt it would be best now that no one should know. He didn't know what ended up happening, but he felt it would be best to be kept a secret, that no one should know that she's a Jew. So she follows the instructions of Mordechai. She doesn't say. Day after day, Mordechai will go around fine. Now, in each maiden, how did it work? They were basically kept for 6 months in preparation. They were perfumed. They were soaked in spices. I don't know exactly how the perfume process worked back then. So, it was a 12-month process. 6 months with oil of myrrh, and 6 months with perfume and feminine cosmetics. That was the process of preparation for your visit to the king. Okay, I guess it's like detox. I don't know what they were, disinfect the girls. It's 12 months of putting them in spices. But that's what the Megillah said. And then, when each maiden's turn arrived, you know how they had a turn? It was one girl a night. So it'll be one girl's turn, and your mouth is open. One girl a night was interviewed. How do you think he made decide who's the best wife? He had a dinner with them?
I thought they walked in front.
No, this was, you know how long the beauty pageant took? You know how long it took from when Vashti was killed and they started looking for a new queen until Esther? No, 4 years. It was the 7th year of his kingdom. So Vashti was killed in the 3rd year of his kingdom, and Queen Esther was chosen as queen in the 7th year of his kingdom. For 4 years, every single night, maybe it took a year to the first girl to start maybe, but for 3 years every night, Achashverosh is interviewing different women for the job, Yeah. That's how the interview went. And this is all girls, married, not married, whoever came to the palace.
Oh, that was my question. I thought Mordechai didn't tell Esther to say, because they were thinking that they would kill Mordechai, that they knew she was married to.
Well, she didn't say anything. She didn't even say she's a Jew. She doesn't even say her name. What does the name Esther mean? What does the name Esther mean? Hidden. Her real name was not Esther. Her real name was Hadassah. That was her name. That's what the Megillah introduces her as Hadassah. She changed her name from Hadassah to Esther, which Esther means concealment, because she concealed her identity. So she could totally conceal her identity. No one knew that she was related to Mordechai. No one knew she was a Jew. They didn't know where she came from. They literally kidnapped her from the marketplace. They didn't know. Not only she came, they kidnapped her. They took her from the market. They saw a beautiful girl. Again, we live in a different time. They saw the officers of the king. Yeah. They saw a beautiful girl walking in the market. She looks nice for the king. Come here, little girl. You know what I'm saying? I don't know if she was little. I don't know how old she was. That's what happened. That's what happened. So it's a year for that of preparation, and then it's your turn. So for a year, you're living in this harem of girls. You're not home, coming for a night or for a week. You're living for a year, separated from your family, in this harem, and then you're taken to the king for the king to decide if he wants to be with you. The Megillah is explicit, by the way. The Megillah says clearly that that in the evening she would come, and in the morning she would return to the second harem in the charge of Shashgaz, the king's chamberlain, the guardian of the concubines. So those that you have when you hire someone for a job, there's like the first interview, second interview, right? Yeah. So there's the first interview. Those that they came in the evening to his inner chambers for their interview. Could be they had dinner first. I guess why not? Talk to her first. Not bad. And then in the morning she would go to a second harem, and those that he wanted to keep became concubines, and they didn't. So I guess they went home. They're still waiting for the phone call next Monday. So that's how it worked. She would never come again to the king unless the king desired her, and she was summoned by name. So he kept all of these girls in the second harem in case he wanted a second interview. Yeah.
So he did have sex with her.
I'm going to talk about it. 1 second. Let's get to Esther's turn. That's the process. That's the process. By the way, and the Megillah says all this.
Yeah, because I always thought she never did.
She did. There is a medrash that there's a shade, whatever. Okay, what happens, as this is the process of all the girls, they come for a full year, and then they go from one harem under the charge of Haggai. After they are together, when they're intimate, when they have sex with the king, they go to a second harem under Shashkes, and there they will remain in case the king will decide to call them again a second time. They remain there in a wait to be there to please the king. And this is where Esther has been taken. Okay? Now comes the turn of... Now the Hebrew is much better, but Uvagia and the came to Vagia to Esther bas Avichai did Mordechai. So it came the turn of Esther, the daughter of Avichai, the uncle of Mordechai who adopted her as a daughter, to come to the king. She requested nothing except that which Haggai, the king's chamberlain guardian of the woman, had advised. She wanted nothing except for what Haggai told her to take. I would say, basically, Haggai says, what do you want? Whatever you want, you get. You're going to the king. So they had a whole warehouse of perfumes, jewelry, cosmetics, makeup. You go into the stylist there, right? And they had a whole team of hairstylists. What hairdo do you want? And you can, whatever you wanted, they'll do it for you. What perfume do you want? What makeup? You want this style, that style, whatever you wanted. Esther comes in, I don't want anything. How do you want your hair done? I don't want it done. What jewelry do you? I don't care. I don't want anything. So Haggai says to her, you can't go to the king without anything. He'll kill me. If you go into the king looking like nothing, I'll be out of a job. So you need to do something. She says, okay, whatever you want to do to me, you do to me. You want my hair this way? Make it this way. You want to give me this perfume, this makeup? You think I should have a green eyeliner? Okay, green, whatever. You know, she had to put something on. You couldn't go to the king without eyeliner. Chas v'shalom, that would be terrible. But that would be a travesty. But whatever Haggai, I'm just reading you the words in the Megillah. Whatever Haggai advised, she did. She didn't care at all what she would look like, what perfume. She wasn't trying to look good, to do anything. So she comes. She comes wearing exactly what Haggai told her. Vatihi Esther noises chen be'enei kol re'eha. And yet it says that Esther found favor in the eyes of all who saw her. She was just so unbelievably naturally beautiful that whoever looked at her said, wow, she's gorgeous. She's gorgeous. So she comes to King Achashverosh into the royal palace in the 10th month, which is the month of Tevet in the 7th year of his reign. So as I said, Vashti was killed in the 3rd year of his kingdom. This is the 7th year. 4 years he's been interviewing girls for a wife, okay? So he hasn't not seen beautiful women. I'm sure that some of the most beautiful women in the entire kingdom have come before him, desperate to become the queen. You know, they're running for this job. It's like the Miss America, whatever contest. Miss Universe. Right, Miss Universe. So this is the Miss Universe. He's the most powerful king in the world. He has 127 provinces under his control. All these hot girls are running to become the queen. And one by one, for years, not good enough, not good enough, not good enough. Right? Pretty picky. Comes Esther. She walks in, and it says, the king loved Esther more than all the women. And she found more favor and kindness before him than all the other maidens. So that he set the royal crown upon her head and made her queen in place of Vashti.
That day.
That night.
Oh, so she didn't go.
Not that moment you walked in. They were intimate. They had sex. I'm going to talk about it. They were,
But she didn't go to the concubine after.
she never went out. Meaning, she came in, you're the queen, and here you stay.
And did you stop interviewing?
I hope so. I don't know. That's a good question. The question was on Facebook, if you stopped the interview process. He probably did, because he was in love with her. He was in love with her. He also, I guess after a while you get tired of interviews, you know what I'm saying? It's like, I guess, you don't know. But after 4 years of searching, like you finally found something after 4 years. It wasn't like 2 days or even... So he's found a wife. And immediately, Vaye'ahav HaMelech es Esther mikol hanashim. He loves her, says the Megillah. He loves her more than all the other women. We're talking about 365 women a year, 4 years later. You know what I'm saying? It's a lot of women that he's been with. And she finds chen v'chesed lefanav. The Hebrew is so much better than the English. She finds chen. You know what chen means? No, how do I translate? Yeah, grace. Chen is grace, but that's just the English word, grace. Chen means like a certain, like a natural beauty, a natural glow, a natural charm and grace. That's called chen. V'chesed, her demeanor, her character. Doesn't literally mean she was giving out charity on the street corner. I'm saying she was in the palace. But he just saw a sincerity and a kindness and a gentle sweetness to her that just was beautiful. He couldn't believe it. He loved it.
So he was a good judge of character.
He was a judge of character. And so he loves her more than all the Basulas, and he takes the crown, immediately takes the crown, puts it on her head. For 4 years, no girls got from the crown. They've just been taken to the second harem on their shashkas. He gives her the crown, and now she becomes a set of Vashti. He makes a big deal. The divorce continues. He makes a massive party for all of his servants, called the Mishteh Esther, the fast of Esther, the meal of Esther. And you know why he's making this feast for Esther? The rabbis tell us, why he's making a feast for Esther? He's trying to find out who she is. He's so curious to know what nationality she's from. So he's hoping by the party, all these different people will come and someone will say, oh, she's ours. No one at the party is like claiming ownership of Esther's nationality. People always boast. Yeah, she came from,
So did the Jews not know her, or did they keep it secret?
I guess they kept it secret. I guess they knew if she didn't say it, to keep it secret. And Mordechai sent the message out. It could be some. Generally, Jews didn't go to the party. I don't know. Yeah, it could be the Jews weren't invited. This was not the party of Shushan. This was the party of the big ministers. Yeah, you're right. The Jews weren't invited. This was a party of the Chol Sarav Avad, for all of his servants and all of his ministers. They weren't there. Mordechai is not a minister yet. So then he writes. Then the verse says he makes a tax upon the people. Again, he's trying to do. He's so desperate to find favor in the eyes of Esther. He's taxing the people to show Esther how much he loves her, to buy her presents or whatever, so she'll divulge to him her identity. And she's an enigma. She won't tell him who she is, where she comes from, etc. Says the very next verse. After he does the party, and he does the tax, everything she doesn't say. And then to the Mordechai, I'm going to skip that verse for a second. Ein Esther, Magedes, Meladet Haves Amma. Mordechai does not. Esther still told nothing of her kindred or her people, exactly as Mordechai had instructed her. Kasher tziv ala Mordechai. Ve'esma'am or Mordechai Esther asa. And the word of Mordechai Esther did, Kasher haisa ba'amna itai, just as when she was reared by him. Meaning, even though Esther is living in the palace, she's now officially married to Achashverosh, she still is loyally following the words of Mordechai, just as when she was raised by him and she still lived with him as his child, as his wife. She's still following his advice. So she does not tell Achashverosh. Achashverosh is begging her, tell me who you are. What do you want? You want a diamond ring? You want this? I'll give it to you. And she won't say. No matter what he does, she won't say. Why? Because even though she's now not under Mordechai in the palace, the Megillah says twice that she follows the word of Mordechai exactly as she always had done. She does not change at all. Okay. Now, there's so many other details here. When you read through the story with the commentary, there's so many other details, like the fact that it says that it happens to be Mordechai was sitting by the gate of the king. How did Mordechai all of a sudden end up by the gate of the king? So Esther wanted him nearby to be close, to give her advice. And so she tells Achashverosh she should have a Jewish advisor. All the other kings had a Jewish advisor. Belshazzar, your father-in-law, he had Daniel was his advisor, etc. Where's your Jewish advisor? So that's how she convinces him to have. So she says, he asks her, do you know anyone that's smart? She says, yeah. So actually, the whole thing, he argues with her. He says, where do you come from? She says, I don't need a Jewish advisor. She says, look at the advice you have, killing Vashti. You have stupid advisors. So he takes Mordechai, and then Mordechai ends up by the palace on her advice. But let's not go there. First of all, I'm going to ask the question that Marsha's being bothered about. What's the question that's bothering Marsha? How could Esther have had sex with Achashverosh? How could she have had sex with Achashverosh?
Because she didn't want it. It's not consensual.
It's not consensual. I can say more. You're correct. It wasn't consensual.
We talked about this one.
You probably did. The Talmud asks this question. The Talmud in Sanhedrin says we know there's a rule in Jewish law. What's the rule in Jewish law? Normally, you're allowed to transgress any sin in order to save a life, right? A life is more important than keeping a mitzvah, so if someone's life is in danger, you're allowed to drive on Shabbos to save their life. With 3 exceptions. What are the 3 exceptions for which a person must be killed rather than commit a sin? Adultery, idol worship, and murder. So if someone says, you killed this person, I'm going to kill you, you have to allow yourself to be killed, I'm going to kill another person. And if someone says, I'm going to kill you unless you commit adultery, you have to be willing to be killed. And here's Esther, a married woman, giving in to the king and cheating on her husband. Not cheating behind his back, I mean, he knows about it, but still, she's committing adultery. It's one of the 3 sins which a person needs to die rather than transgress. So how is Esther allowed to be together with the king in an intimate way when she's a married woman? It's adultery. So the Talmud gives 2 answers. Talmud says that she was passive like earth. When she was intimate having sex with Achashverosh, she was not actively doing anything. She laid there as like a piece of wood. She was there. He would do whatever he wanted, and she didn't do anything. So since she didn't do anything, she wasn't actually committing a sin. She wasn't doing any action that should make her show that she wanted to be with the king. Second explanation given is that Achashverosh was doing this for his own personal pleasure. So when do we say that you have to allow yourself to be killed rather than commit a sin? Is only when the person wanted to do the sin for the sake of doing a sin. It's called lahachas. He's doing it for the sake of making you sin against God. However, the Talmud gives an example about giving shovel to a house of idol worship for heating their ovens, where the heating is just for their own pleasure, for bodily pleasure, not for, it's not an act of rebellion against God. In that case, it's allowed. In private. So what's happening here? Since Achashverosh, he didn't know she was Jewish. He wasn't saying to her, as a Jew, I want you to break your law and go against God and commit adultery. He was saying for personal pleasure, you're a beautiful girl and I want you, so I'm going to take you. So therefore, she was allowed to not die and to allow herself to be intimate and to live a married life together with Achashverosh. Okay? Now, what happens next? You know how long goes by until the decree of Haman? I said to you last week, in the Megillah, it happens the very next chapter. It's like 10 seconds later. If you're wearing your seatbelt and shul and the chazan is going fast, it's like it's a minute later, you're ready, and then now Haman came on. It's a full 5 years later. The decree of Haman comes out in the 12th year of the king to be fulfilled in the 13th year of the king. So if she got married in the 7th year, there's an 8th year, a 9th year, a 10th year, an 11th year, and then a 12th year, where she is living as the wife of this drunken behemoth. You know what a behemoth is? An animal. He was an animal. He wasn't a very intellectually brilliant kind of person. He was an animal. He was a party animal. He grew up in the stable. He was, according to the Talmud, he was a stable boy. You have to say that's who he was. He wasn't some sophisticated, intellectual, kind person. He was an animal. 5 years go by, during which Esther must have suffered. 5 years in which she never once gives in to the pleasure of being intimate with Achashverosh. Imagine 5 years. 5 years, you're not just you're married. 5 years, your husband is desperate for you. He's crazy about you. And he does, the Megillah says he would love her, he did parties for her, he did everything for her. And yet never once, not once, does she ever allow for a moment of indulgence, or where she says, hey, I'm anyway living with him, I'm anyway married to him, I might as well, enjoy. I might as well live up the life a little bit. Not once. And we know that during the 5 years she was in the palace, she kept kosher. Now no one knew she was Jewish. So don't look today, you go to America, ask for the kosher airline meal, whatever, they give you some. She had to pretend like she was vegetarian, and she only ate nuts and fruits. She couldn't eat any meat, any fish, there's nothing. She ate nuts, it says, and fruits, and that's how she ate. And Achashverosh, as long as she was healthy and she looked good, she maintained her appearance, she was fine. She couldn't keep track of who was the day. She didn't have a Jewish calendar, so she made her own secret calendar based on different maids for different days, and based on who was the maid of the day, that's how she would know what day of the week it was. That's how she kept track of the months. She kept track of everything. She had a rotation of 30 maids, the whole system. Different maids for different days of the week. That's how she kept Shabbos, etc. I'll tell you a side note. When she has the feast with Achashverosh and Haman, do you know what night that feast was? It was Pesach. That feast was on the Seder. That feast was on the Seder. The night of guarding, when God watches us, on the night of the Seder. Actually, we have a custom, the second meal, the second feast was on the second night of the Seder, the second Seder, right? And we actually have a custom to mention during the Seder, to mention the miracle of Esther with Achashverosh, which happened on the second Seder. But here's what's really cool. If you look in the Megillah, guess what it says? If you look in the Megillah, it says that night at the feast, Esther was drinking wine. It doesn't tell us what was on the menu. It doesn't tell us what food she served, but she was drinking wine. Why was she drinking wine? It was a Seder. And she wanted to drink this 4 cups of wine. So in secret, for 5 years, she's living the secret life of a Jew, a religious Jew, keeping Pesach, keeping kosher, keeping the laws of Nida, keeping all the laws of modesty. One of the reasons why she wanted Mordechai to be in the palace was because she kept the laws of ritual purity of a woman. When the woman has her periods, she has to be separated and to go to the mikvah. And in case she would have a question about her Nida status, she wasn't sure if she was ritually pure or not, she needed Mordechai nearby to be able to answer her questions for her. For 5 years, she's living a double life. She's married to the king. She, I'm sure, went to whatever official state function she had to go to, and whatever, queens have whatever responsibilities they have. They have to go to, some tea party. So she went to whatever event she had to go to. She was his trophy wife, taken around at whatever parade and fair, whatever. I don't know the details. But I'm sure during those 5 years, she had to act as the queen, trophy wife of the king, intimate, living as the wife of the king who the king loves, more than every other woman. And at the same time, she never once gives into the moment of pleasure. Never once does she feel like she remains loyal to Mordechai. As Marsha said correctly, and I said it before, as long as she was being raped, each and every single time that she was intimate with her husband, with Achashverosh, she could still one day eventually go back to Mordechai. Because if a woman's raped, they haven't committed an act of adultery, she can go back. So she is, in her mind, never once allowing herself to enjoy the moment, so she can one day go back to her husband, go back to Mordechai. Yeah.
How come if the invitation that she made to Ahasuerus was Passover, that's what you said, right? But the 14th of Adar is Purim is before Passover.
It's a very good question. Since I mentioned, I'll just clarify. The dates of Purim that we celebrate is on the 13th day the decree of Haman was made in the month of Nisan. Of the 12th year, Haman got the king's signet ring to make a decree to kill the Jewish people. He made a lottery to decide when will be a good month to make. He was very superstitious, black magic. He knew mystical forces. So when will be a good month to kill the Jews that they won't have some kind of merit that will defend them? He was afraid of the merit of the Jews. I can talk about this now for long if it's already late. But the point is, he did a lottery. The lottery came out in the month of Adar, and then on the 13th day of Adar. So in the month of Nisan, he sent out, which is the first month of the year. Then in the last month of the Hebrew year, in Adar, on the 13th, it was 2 letters. One was to prepare the armies for a secret mission on the 13th of Adar, with a second letter that was not allowed to be opened until the 13th of Adar, saying to kill all the Jews. That, by the way, wasn't leaked in the palace. Mordechai got it. I learned in a medrash, Eliyahu Navi gave it. Anyway, the point is, this decree was made in the month of Nisan. Immediately, Mordechai says to Esther, go to the king. Go pray for us. Go fight for us. And when she does that right away, Haman is killed by the second day of Pesach. But yet the decree is still standing, and that's why they have to make a second decree and all that. Correct. And only after the 13th of Adar, the next year, when they kill all the enemies of the Jews, the next day, on the 14th of Adar, it becomes established as a day of celebration for the Jewish people. Okay?
So the dinner was the first and the second?
Yes. Now we come to the heroism. Okay, so hold before I get to the heroism. So far, what kind of image do we have of Esther? I already went a little bit to her heroism during the 5 years. But till that point, if you were reading this Megillah, just reading the text, what do you think? Esther's a pushover. Where's her feminist power? She has no will of her own. There's nothing in the story that Esther does of her own volition. She's married to the person who adopted her. She does whatever he says. She's taken against her will to the palace. She doesn't want to go to the palace. She's taken there. She becomes married to the king she doesn't want to be married to. She still continues to listen to the words of Mordechai, not to say who she is. She does exactly what Mordechai told her. So if you're some modern day feminist, you might think that Esther is not my heroine. Yes? There are women that maybe wouldn't verbalize it like the way I just said it, but that's actually the way that they would think. My hero is someone strong who's willing to stand up for themselves, not some pushover that just does whatever Mordechai the man tells her to do. Okay. Let's continue the story.
Well, Jessica was pretty strong to stand her ground.
So first of all, she's very to stand her ground for 5 years, but you're gonna see who she is. First, Mordechai comes to Esther. Last week I discussed the whole back and forth, right? Mordechai got the message. He sends to Hachzach. He's wearing the sackcloth in the front of the palace. I think I discussed this last week. Anyway, the point is, Esther gets the message, you got to go to the king. And what does she say first? I can't. King, he doesn't let me in right now. He's in a paranoid state. Haman's got his head. I'm not going in. She had never once, ever in 5 years, initiated a contact with her husband. Understand? It's always been him coming to her. She's never gone to him in 5 years. You got to go to your husband. She says no. Then Mordechai says to her, as I said this last week, the most powerful words in the entire Megillah. He says to her, this is the moment that you were put into the palace. The Jews are going to be saved no matter what. But God put you here to give you the opportunity that you would be the one who would bring the salvation of the Jewish people. This is your moment. This is for what you were created for. The whole story, the whole Vashti and everything in the beauty pageant, it was all for this moment that you should be the one to save the Jewish people. At that moment, you see the most unbelievable transformation in the text you ever see in a person. What's the very next thing that happens? Very next thing that happens, I'm going to skip ahead over here. So, I know by heart, but I want to read the text just for you in case you don't believe me that I'm saying it correctly. Here, they all know I can't come. So then Mordechai says to Esther, don't be silent. You have to, if you're going to be silent this time, the salvation will come from elsewhere. Who knows? This is the whole reason why he became the queen. So Vatayimer Esther, lahashel Mordechai. Esther says to reply to Mordechai, go and gather all the Jews that I found in Shushan. Vitzumu will lie and fast for me, and don't eat and don't eat and don't drink for 3 days. Laila v'yom, 3 days consecutively, night and day. Don't eat, don't drink. Gamaniv na'asai otam kate, and go so too I and my daughter, my maids will fast. Uvechein, and like this I will come to the king without permission, and if I get killed, I get killed. Okay? I'm not sure which thing to say is next, because there's two things that are in my head. But what do you see at this moment? I'll do the following. So he says, fast for 3 days. I and my maid will also fast. Uvechein, and like this, Avay el Hamelach, I will come to the king, Asher lo kados, not according to the rules. And then comes very, very powerful words in the Megillah. Very powerful words. You know what the next words are? When we read the words, the tune changes. The whole tune of the Megillah is a livelier tune. There's several times in the Megillah we use a sad tune from the tune of the book of Eicha, the book of Lamentations. The next 3 words, which are the final 3 words of this verse, are read in the sad tune. V'chasher avaditi. Pay attention. When we read the Megillah once in, you'll hear that. I'm going to switch the tune. Kasher avaditi ahavaditi, which means, and if I will be lost, I will be lost. That's the little word. Aveda means lost. Meaning, now you know what the context of this verse is. Until this moment, she has never initiated contact with her husband. She has been raped consecutively for 5 years. She's never once allowed herself to indulge in the fact that she's married to the king because it's against who she is. And what this night, she's going to go to the king. Going to the king means she's making herself open to the king. She's making a party for the king where the king's going to get drunk, so we'll know where that will end up. And that will be not against her will. That will be an act of intimacy that she's initiating. And once she does that, she will no longer be considered married to Mordechai. She will have violated who she is in a certain way. And therefore she says to Mordechai, I'm going to do it. I'm going to go to the king, not according to the rules. And if I'm lost forever, if I've given up who I am, if I lose my own identity as a Jew because I've now given in to the king, I'm willing to give it up to save my people.
Oh, it wasn't saying that she's going to die.
Doesn't say the word die. That's how it's normally translated.
That's how I
The way that it's translated in this particular translation, and if I perish, I perish. But the word avadati is from the Hebrew word aveda. What's hashavat aveda? Returning a lost object. When something is lost, it's avad, it's lost. If I'm lost, if I perish, if I come to an end as a Jew, I mean, what Esther is risking here is not the simple story that the king doesn't let me into the palace and he might kill me. She's happy to be killed. All the Jews will be killed. She doesn't want to be in the palace. She's afraid of being in the palace as the real wife of the king. I'm going to jump ahead. I'm going to say this thing and then I'm going to go back to what I wanted to say. Meaning, you have to remember this. After the Purim story, what happens to all of us? We party. Miracle happened, right? Pull out the l'chaim, the hamantash and party, going like to the Jews. It was light and simcha and joy and a celebration. And where's Esther? Where's Esther in the Purim after the Jews win the war? After the Jews kill all their enemies? She's still in the palace. Esther remains married to the king to the end of her life. She remains married to the king. So all the Jews are celebrating, and all the Jews are giving out gifts of baskets of food to their friends, and giving out charity to the poor, and they're having a big party, and they're all having a su'udah, and they're partying, and they're drinking, and they're celebrating this tremendous miracle. And where's Esther? With her drunk, whatever, king, her Achashverosh husband. Stuck in the palace.
So does she become his wife literally?
Yeah.
I mean,
She has a kid with him.
what?
She has a kid with him.
I was wondering.
Darius II, Daryavish.
She should have had a kid with him a long time ago when she wasn't. So was she enjoying it with him? Like enjoying
It's not enjoying it, not enjoying it. She has now initiated, she was no longer, could say, I'm doing this against my will.
Right, so since she made the sin, did she give into it for the rest of her marriage, or did she still? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. She did. She did. She saved the Jewish people.
I would think God would forgive her.
Of course.
Right.
What she did is that this is the whole purpose she was put into the palace.
Right.
This was her mission. This was the purpose she was put into the palace, was to be at this moment to save the Jewish people. But in order for her to save the Jewish people, she had to give up, she had to relinquish her own personal denial of the situation, her own personal, until the point is, she would take it to the king, she would not to the king. That was the story of what God put her in the situation. It's not her fault, she's an oinus.
Right,
She's doing what God put her into.
Technically, it's not a shanda because it's in the same way as if you have a female Mossad agent who sleeps with
Female
a
son, no, I don't.
kill a terrorist.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like you're doing something bad.
Yeah, the point is here God made it had to be that way. So the point is, the reason I'm saying could be she stole like a thing like wood. The point is that Achashverosh is doing it for his own pleasure. She was already married to him. This is what God put her into this situation. God put her into the situation. The point is that she was now relinquishing on her own personal sense of self, her own personal sense of my true identity, to never give in to this king. And now she's deliberately, willingly doing it to be able to fight for her people.
Right, well, I'll understand this, for example, if a person is not allowed to even to save a life, technically she is doing that for the reason of saving a life, even though it's many lives. So
You actually could. I have an answer, but let me go further because I only have a few minutes. And I'm like, I'll address it afterwards. So now let's go further. Actually, I'm going back. Going further, I'm going back. Look at the transformation that happens to Esther at this moment. Until this moment, has Esther ever spoken up? No. And now what happens? She tells Mordechai, she starts giving him instructions. Not just for Mordechai, but for the whole Jewish people. Lech, Knesses Kol HaYehudim, go and gather all the Jews, v'tzumu alai, and fast for me, don't eat, don't drink for 3 days. She's telling Mordechai what Mordechai should do and what Mordechai should all the Jews to do. Guess what else? Mordechai says to Esther, I can't do that. It's not a text, I'm telling you the Medrash. I can't do that. It's Pesach. I can tell all the Jews to fast on Pesach and not have a Seder, they're never going to listen to me. So Mordechai refuses Esther. So Esther says to Mordechai, what value is there in Pesach without the Jewish people? If the Jews will celebrate Pesach this year, it's not what I'm going to tell you, but if the Jews will celebrate Pesach this year, and then the next year they're all killed, so what's the value of it? What is Pesach without Jews to celebrate Pesach? So let the Jews fast on Pesach so that I can have God's mercy and God's compassion on me when I go. So the point is, she gives it to Mordechai. So Mordechai is now listening to instructions from Esther. She's listening to him. Then what happens? She now goes, after 3 days, she does something which is very hard for her, something she'd never done before. She goes to the king's chambers, dressed to seduce, dressed to get her husband to want to listen to her. And she didn't spend the 3 days in the spa, she spent the 3 days in fasting. She's weak. Her face is green, it says, from fasting for 3 days. She had a hard time standing. She couldn't even stand. She was so weak from fasting and so scared. She was leaning on her maid. She went with 2 maids. One was next to her. She was literally leaning on her maid to be able to walk into the palace. That's how weak she was. And yet, she went with absolute conviction. Hashem's going to be with me. Hashem's going to protect me. And so even though she was so weak, and even though she was so frightened, and there's so many medrashim out there, first Nachashverosh looked at her angry, and the angel hit him, and then he turned to her. All the stories, I'm not going to get to them now because of the time. The fact is, she goes into the king's chamber, through 7 different chambers to get in. And she comes before him, and she holds her composure, and she said, I want to invite you to a party in my chambers tonight, which you know where that's going to end up. And not only that, you know what she does? She invites Haman to the party. Do you know what it must have meant for her to invite Haman to the party? Let's dig into her psychology for a second. Imagine that you're a Jewish girl, and you're inviting, I don't know, even Putin's not even, Hitler to, you're making a party, and who do you invite to the party? Hitler, Yimach Shemai. That's exactly who Haman is. Can you imagine? You know that this person made a decree to kill every single Jew, and you're inviting him to a party, a private party of you and the king, just the 3 of you alone? You know what kind of guts you need to have? What kind of inner strength and inner resolve? How to be able to just, first of all, not to be afraid, not to be like gross, not to be able to like have your composure, to serve a whole meal, entertain a whole evening with Haman, who wants to kill you, sitting right there.
And she drank.
Not only that, you know what else she did at the party? She was acting seductive to Haman. She wanted to make Achashverosh jealous. You know what happened that night? You know the story. We talked about the story. What happened that night after the first party? Achashverosh couldn't sleep. Why? Because Esther put her couch, it says, next to Haman's couch. Not next to Achashverosh's couch. She was like, sidling or whatever. She was like making very, very nice to him. She was being very friendly to him. She was flirting with him. Not because she wanted to flirt with Haman. Because she needed to get under the skin of Achashverosh, make Achashverosh nervous, which she did brilliant. Her brilliance is unbelievable. She literally made Haman, Achashverosh, so paranoid, he couldn't sleep all night. He took out the book and they said about Mordechai. How did she get under his skin? How did she make him paranoid? Because she was flirting with the guy that wants to kill her. Do you understand the bravery we're talking about? It's unbelievable bravery. It's like, imagine, trying to give an example. Imagine a Jewish girl in 1939 inviting Hitler into their home, and not just inviting him to home, feasting him, dining him, wining him, just seducing him, pretending like you love him, so you can save the Jewish people.
I wish someone did that.
And they can slit his
Yeah.
throat while he's asleep.
Yael did that with Sisera. We have another story in history of Yael who killed the general Sisera. Also, she brought him to his tent, she gave him cheese and all that, and same thing. Yeah.
That's war. I mean,
Yeah.
all fair and love.
Point is, my friends, I hope you know I'm going to go overtime. The point is, she is a heroine with courage and bravery and inner strength and fortitude that very few people in history have that. What happens after the story? The second night, again, she's able to, in front of Haman, to accuse Haman of trying to kill her. Now, by the way, if you think about it for a second, again, we'll go into the psychology. What would be easier if you were Esther and you wanted to convince Achashverosh to revoke the decree of Haman? Would it be easy to do it in front of Haman or not in front of Haman? Not in front of Haman. But she knew that if she would reveal her identity to Achashverosh, not in front of Haman, and Achashverosh said, "You're right, I'm going to speak to Haman about this, I'm going to kill Haman," or whatever you say, he'll go to Haman. What will Haman do? Haman will change his mind a different way, manipulate his mind a different way. So she knew that the only way to effectively reveal her identity was to do something so difficult that she hadn't done in 5 years, with Haman there to counter at the moment. The risks are so high. She's doing it with Haman there in the room because she knows that the only way that I can get him is I have to get him on the spot. If I give him a chance to speak to the king privately without me, he can always, Achashverosh could change his mind in a second. Then the story of Haman happens. Yeah.
Did she tell him she was Jewish?
At the second party, what happened to the second party? At the second party, and the text of the Megillah is so beautiful. The text of the Megillah says, in the second party, the king says to her, he's like so desperate to make her happy, Esther. He says, "Up to half the kingdom, it's yours. What do you want, my wife? Just tell me what you want from me. I want to make you happy. I see you're not happy." All he wants is to make her happy. And she says that my nation has there's someone that wants to kill me and my nation. And he says, "Who is that?" "Me who's Eviezehu, Hashem Lili boy, La'asis Cain." Who? I couldn't believe it. Someone wants to kill you? Who could want to kill you? And Esther says, "You know who it is? This evil, wicked man." And she points at Haman. This man, he wants to kill me. This is not a pushover talking. This is not some weak, submissive girl that doesn't know how to stand up for herself, staring Haman down in the face in front of Achashverosh, saying, "I'm a Jew and this is a wicked man that wants to kill me." And it works. Her bravery saves the Jewish people single-handedly. Single-handedly, she saved the Jewish people. Then what happens next? After the whole story, they kill the Jews, whatever, they have a big party. Esther wants to establish a holiday for the Jewish people. She wants to establish that Purim should be a holiday for the Jewish people forever and ever. So she sends a message to the rabbis, Kavuni Ladeiris. It's in the Gemara, what I'm going to tell you now. Kavuni Ladeiris, which means establish this day of the miracle of the winning over the enemies. Establish for me, Ladeiris, for all generations, that these mitzvahs of Shalach Manis and gifts to the poor and here in the Megillah and the feast should be a mitzvah for all of time. And guess what?
It is.
They don't want it. It is, but the rabbis say no to her. It's in the Gemara. The Gemara says the rabbis say no. And they say, you're going to be making jealousy amongst it. It's amazing. It's we can have a whole discussion on this Gemara too, by the way. The rabbis, the Sanhedrin, tell Esther, the queen, "Sorry, Queen Esther, we can't do that. Kina atma eireres bagoyim, which means that you're going to be arousing jealousy by the non-Jews. If they're going to see that we're celebrating when we killed the non-Jewish enemies of the Jews, it'll make them jealous of us and it will cause more anti-Semitism. I can imagine some rabbi saying something like that, right? And Esther responds back to them and says, I hate to burst your bubble, Mr. Rabbi. She didn't say it like that, but she said, I hate to tell you, this story is already written down in the chronology books, whatever, in the history books of the Median and Persian Empire. So the non-Jews already know the story. Let the Jews know the story. Let the Jews know the story. So she fights with them and she prevails. Her argument is heard, and the rabbis who initially didn't want to listen to her established Purim as a holiday for all of future time. Then she asks, Kisvuni l'deres, write down the story for all generations. And guess what? The rabbis say no. Can't do that. Based on the verse, basically there's a verse that implies that the mention of the destruction of Amalek should be written 3 times in Tanakh. And you have once in Parshat B'Shalach, once in Kiseitze, once by the story of Shmuel and Shaul and King Agag. So you already have 3 times, you can't write it down again. And then she explains back how to explain the verses, and she's able to explain to them that writing down the story of the Megillah of Purim is not a contradiction to the verse about the 3 times of remembering Amalek, and therefore they give in to her and they write down the book of Esther. Why? Which is why, by the way, why is this called the Megillah of Esther? Not the Megillah of Mordechai and Esther, or the Megillah of Yeshusha, the Megillah of the Jews. It's called Megillah of Esther, because the only reason why this ever got written as a book, when I say written as a book, means it can be written down in history, but as a book of Tanakh, that became a holy book, that when you read it, that it became a holy part of the Tanakh. It's only because Esther went to fight with the rabbis and stood up and said, I demand that this book should become part of Tanakh. And even when they argue with her, she held her own and she prevailed. That it should be written as a book. So, I mean, we can talk about this whole discussion, but not for now. What's the takeaway from this discussion? Where it's called Megillas Esther, because she's the one that made it be, she, not Mordechai, not the other rabbis, not the Jews. The rabbis were against it. She fought that this should be written down for generations. So is Esther a weak woman? Is she someone that doesn't have strength or character or unbelievable heroism? Absolutely not. But here we come to what I'm going to argue is real feminism. What's the difference between men and women? What's the difference between men and women? That's a very loaded question, I know. It's like, that's like, what's the difference between, heavens and earth? I don't know. Like, what's the difference between men and women? Men need to do something in order to be productive. Women don't need to do something. Women are productive, but they feel a sense of identity from who they are. Men identify themselves by what they do, and women identify themselves by who they are. Men can't just be. Men need to do. Women can be. I mean, yes? You ever have a group of guys when they get together? They get together to do something. Men don't get together to just be together. Men get together to, right? We have a men's club director right here. We have to do something. We have to go shooting. We have to go fishing. We have to go do something. We can't just be. Women can just be together. And men are like, and what did you do? We didn't do anything. We just were. We just thought we were together. And the man, like the brain, doesn't understand what that's supposed to mean. Like, what do you mean you just? So you talked. Okay, so the man, they talked. But it wasn't really about talking. You were talking while you were being together, but it wasn't about the talking. A woman has a sense of fulfillment from who they are, and therefore they have an inner sense of completion internally, and therefore a woman can be. They don't need to do to feel worthy. A man that's not doing feels inferior. A man needs to do to feel a sense of value. And there's a lot of explanations for this, and this is the way we were created, where we came from. There's many explanations. There's the sun and the moon, that's why man is compared to the sun, the woman is the moon is whatever. The point is, Esther never looked to identify herself by what she could do. Esther's whole identity was who I am. 5 years in the palace. Did Esther lose her identity? 5 years in the palace, Esther was who she was, even though she couldn't do anything. She was who she was. She didn't need to do. She was. And that inner strength was always there. That's who she was. That's why women always have the sense of faith and connection to Hashem that never gets lost. You see it in Esther much, much more than anybody else. Even Mordechai, everyone else, they get worried, they're stressed out, what's going to be. Esther knows it's not about what we're going to do, it's who we are. And as long as we are connected to who we are, we're going to be okay. And so today's feminists, they feel a need to do and to be, to act like what a man can act like. And they feel that, how do I prove my worth? Not by being who I am, but by proving that I can do things that other people do.
So true.
That's not Esther. The unbelievable heroism of Esther was how she was able to be who she was, despite how hard the external circumstances were. She was who she was. And because she was who she was, in the moment of need, she was able to overcome the hardest obstacles and to do things that maybe many men could not do, because she wasn't doing something to do. She was being who she was. Since she was a being, she was able to do anything. That's the power of the woman. And so if you want to know the true story of Esther, if you want to know the true power of a Jewish woman, which is this power of Esther, you look at the Megillah, which is called the Megillah of Esther, which is all about the power of a woman that was literally able to be in a palace, be married to a man that she didn't want to be with, be in an environment that had no connection to anything. And not only did she not lose her identity, not only did after 5 years did she not begin to lose who she was because of what she was doing, or she was forced to be doing, but because she identified herself by who she is, no matter what happened, she kept that. She never lost that. And that's why Esther is a true heroine of the whole Purim story. More than Mordechai, more than anyone else, it's Esther. And that's the story of Esther, the ultimate feminist, who was who she was, not who tried to do what someone else could do. Got it, my friends? You got it. No one wants to move, even though it's so much later. Okay.
She slept with it after the first night. Because he was in bed by himself and saying he was with the women till the next morning. Maybe they
That's-
slept together.
The pictures. Afterwards. I was telling you also, Tinus Esther is a good question. I have to think about that. Tinus Esther, now answer your question. Tinus Esther, by the way, Wednesday is the fast of Esther. This Wednesday is the fast of Esther. Why is it called the fast of Esther? Because she's the one that is made Mordechai make the fast. I mean, she said, this is what you got to do. And Mordechai did what she said. So that's on Wednesday. Starts, what time does the fast start? 6 what? 6:17 a.m. it starts. And it ends 6:17 in the morning, Wednesday morning. It ends, if you want to eat in the morning, you have to have that in mind before you go to sleep Tuesday night. It ends at 7:54. 7:15 will be Mincha here. 7:50 or 7:54 will be the reading of Megillah. It's more than 12. Yeah, it's a day. It's just a day fast. Men and women should come 7:45. 7:45 is Ma'ariv and Megillah reading here in Shul. We'll be next door. We'll be here. We'll be next door. Wednesday 7:45. 7:45.
Yeah.
Okay? That's the end of the fast, and we'll have some refreshments. Thursday, you have 4 mitzvahs on Thursday. To hear the Megillah, be at 8:30 in the morning, 5 o'clock, or at 6 o'clock in the evening. To give at least 2 meals of food to poor people, which means a minimum of $18 per person. So you should be getting at least $36 to charity on Thursday, deliberately, exclusively for feeding people, for poor people. Whatever we collect on Purim, every penny that goes, you always go to the Challah Food Fund, to other families in the community in need. This year, some of that will also go to the Silbersteins, who are here in South Florida from Chernigov, Ukraine.
Well, that was a beautiful video.
Thank you.
Email.
Yeah, we have to really help them because there's, I'll do whatever. There's 260 Jews that are still in Chernigov. He's trying to smuggle out of the city. He's trying to raise money. If you want to donate, let me know and I'll give it to him. It's $1,000 to get gas. It's whatever. I was on a Zoom call with him Saturday night. He has a driver, has someone there, but they give people that you can't get gas in the city. This doesn't understand. For him, if you get someone from Chernigov to Kiev, that's considered safety. Kiev, we all know in the news is whatever. He's trying to get people from Chernigov to Kiev, because Chernigov is closer to the border, so it's even more being. However much destruction Kiev is getting, Chernigov is getting it even worse, because it's closer to the Russians. And from Kiev, there's ways to get out. There's convoys, whatever. From Chernigov, there's nothing. It's destroyed. So he still has 260 people there. To get a tank of gas, I don't know, per person for gas is $1,000. Just the gas. To get them out of the city. Not including when they get out and all that. You can't get gas. So it's like whoever has it. That's what it was on Saturday night, whatever. He told me Saturday he was text. What?
We're complaining about the gas.
Yeah, you're complaining here. I saw also a video from a shliach in was it Odessa maybe, that when they left the city, they went from there to the Dnepropetrovsk, it's a 3-hour drive. Normally it would cost a few $100s. When they left, it was $2,000. Since then, a few days later, they're getting other people out, the price went up to $4,000. And people are desperate. They think they'll pay anything. It's you're going to pay $1,000 for a tank of gas to get out of the course from being bombed. I'm saying it's crazy. So we need to help them. That's Thursday, big party. And charity, Megillah, the feast, and what did I forget? Oh, Shalach Manas. Giving Shalach Manas. Giving gifts of food. At least 2 foods to at least 1 person on Purim. Okay.
Now, we're not creating those baskets anymore?
What? Tomorrow. If you want to help pack baskets, where they just came today. Tomorrow after Torah and tea, we'll pack it, and then whoever wants Shalach Manas will have Shalach Manas. We'll give out, and yes.
And what time do we make the readings on Thursday?
8:30 in the morning, 5 o'clock in the afternoon, or 6 o'clock in the afternoon. Okay, so it's 3 Megillah readings. 5:30. 5:30 is dinner and a rodeo ball and a lot of fun. Line dancing and all that good stuff. Okay.
I'm hearing that Wednesday is not good.
You have to both. Wednesday is one mitzvah, but yes, and then Thursday. So here both, Wednesday and one time on Thursday. Now after the Kayla, so I had a thought. Kayla was asking me about it. Once she was married, she's like, now she's doing a sin. If non-Jews circle a city and they say, give us a person to kill or to violate, or if now we're going to kill the whole city, what's the law? The whole city has to be killed rather than give away 1 Jew to be killed. But if they say, give us Chaim, for whatever reason, we want him, and he's taking shelter in the city, in that case, you're allowed to give him, they're going to kill the whole city anyway, you're allowed to give him. Meaning if Esther was anyway, because there it's not, they picked a particular person. So here Esther was kind of chosen already. So in that case, she was allowed to give up herself to save her people. But either way, it's an act of tremendous sacrifice. If I sin, but if I'm lost to the Jewish people, I'm committing a crime, I'm committing adultery, and I'm going to be lost to my people, but I'll save all of them.
So it's like a soul sacrifice.
Yeah. Yeah. The thing is I'll be lost to my people in an emotional way, in a spiritual way. But whatever. You think Esther was sad living in the palace all those years later? What do you think? I'll ask you a question. Do you think next year, everyone's having a big Purim party, and she's still in the palace with Achashverosh, do you think she was sad? Or do you think she's like, thank God that I was able to be the one who saved the entire Jewish people?
Well, yeah, but she was still, even though she was thankful she was able to save the Jewish people, I think her and her soul was still sad for still being with this person.
I got kosher food.
I got a mashkiach in the kitchen, yeah.
How could Hashverosh respond to her being a Jew?
He kills Haman.
Yeah.
But I thought he killed her because he thought she was raping him. I mean, she thought he was raping her.
When he came back in, Haman fell on her thing. But yeah, but that was part of also, she said this whole like, this in his head that he was trying to be with her, whatever. She was with him. Let's imagine, we gave the example of Hitler before, right? I mean, we're just imagining now. I don't know any text, but if you try and put yourself into the shoes of Esther, imagine this Jewish girl in 1939, good Jewish girl, and now she has an opportunity to invite Hitler into her home and to bring him in, feed him, wine him, dine him, seduce him, and then kill him and save the Jewish people. Yeah, and she was violated by him. She was violated. Or not kill him. That's not what happened with Esther. Esther didn't kill Achashverosh. But to marry Hitler. Let's say to marry Hitler. But because she does that, the Holocaust never happens. I mean, it's a very hypothetical question. But imagine that.
But sometimes
Do you think that girl would feel bad about the fact that she married Hitler? Or even though people might look at me and say, what a chutzpah, look at this girl married to the king. She violated the rules. She is not following the rules. She should have given up her life.
But in a
And
war-
yet she knows she's saving the
in a
Jewish
war
people.
zone, it's different. You have to do what you have to do to survive.
Yeah.
And, it's easy to say, break this little rule, but by breaking this little rule, you're doing something
Can I say
more
something?
noble.
The words you're using are fascinating. You're saying you have to do what you have to do to survive, because you're speaking like a man. So a man does what he has to do to survive. I think Esther looked at it very differently. Maybe I didn't say this properly, maybe. I think Esther looked at it differently. When a mother takes care of her children, is she doing what she needs to do, or is she being who she is? Think about this. These words just came to my head now. But when a mother takes care of her children, let me explain. When a mother is taking care of her children, she's sacrificing a lot.
Yeah.
She's sacrificing a lot. So the mother she's with the kids, even in religious community, she can't go to shul, she's not obligated on the mitzvot, she can't go to this function, she can't go to this, because she's with her kids. In her mind, it's not that she's doing something for her kids. She is being who she is. She's being who she is. Exactly. So to the mother, it's not I'm sacrificing my social life for my kids. When the mother feels that, that's something that could be a problem. It's not I'm sacrificing. I'm actually fulfilling who I am. Esther is the ultimate Jewish woman that for her, when she was able to save the Jewish people, she was able, I think, to have such a feeling of happiness. This is who I am. What did Mordechai say to her? Go back to what Mordechai said to her. Who knows that this is the whole purpose for what you are here for? This is why you are who you are. Not this is why you need to do what you need to do. The reason why you are is because of your opportunity to save the Jewish people. So she didn't look at it like I did something and now I'm paying the price for what I did, but the price was worth it. What I got, I saved the Jewish people, was worth the price. This is who I am. So I think this is the ultimate feminist. This is who I am. I don't need to do anything. I don't need to prove myself to anybody. Part of the whole need of feminism today is we need to prove ourselves. I can do what he can do. And I can show how tough I am. And I can prove that I'm not a pushover. So I need to show that I'm tough. And if you don't like me, that proves that I'm a really strong woman. They don't like me. That's not what Esther was. It's not that I need to prove to the people that I'm doing the right thing or the wrong thing. It's not that I sacrificed. This is what I was made for. So I would argue, and again, this is only my own theory now. I have no basis for this. Esther on Purim was the happiest woman. The sense of fulfillment of being able to know that you lived for a reason and this is why I exist, to see black and white. This is my whole existence right here. Look at that. What's greater than that?
So you can fulfill your mission in that time than in there.
Yeah. She had to raise Darius. And she's raising the next Jewish king. She's raising the king that would rebuild the Beis Hamikdash. Who builds the second Beis Hamikdash? Who gives the Jews permission? I mean, Ezra the scribe builds it. But who allows the Jews to build the second Beis Hamikdash? Esther's son Darius. But I mentioned to you, Achashverosh hated the Jews. Achashverosh, I mentioned, I'll repeat it. You have to hear everything twice. Achashverosh, when he became the king, but when Achashverosh became the king, he went to the stargazers to find out who would be the next king after him. And the stargazers told him, it's going to be a Jewish king. A Jewish king. So he got word, the Jews will take over his kingdom. They were right. Who was the next king? His son, who was a Jewish king. So Esther didn't do anything in the Jewish community. As far as the Jewish community is concerned, she's a traitor. When Esther, I didn't tell you this, when Esther invited Haman to the party, one reason why she invited him was to make Achashverosh nervous and to make him jealous. Another reason was to build up his ego, because that's when the person falls, when their ego is hard, that's when they become vulnerable to failure. But there's another reason. Esther wanted the Jews to pray. Esther knew that the word would get out to the Jewish community that Haman came to her house for a party. And what do you think the Jews said when they found out that Esther invited Haman to her house for a party? Yeah. Traitor, red coat, I don't know, Esther in the palace, we need Esther to save us from Haman. And now Esther's buddy with Haman, she's trying to save herself. And she had in mind, on purpose, that when the Jews would know that she is inviting Haman to her house, they say, we can't rely on Esther to pray for us. We thought, the Jews always think we have someone to do something for us. Esther wanted the Jews to pray to God to remember who they are. So she had to make them give up on this idea that she would somehow be the one that would save them. And then they would pray, they would connect to God sincerely. And then the salvation will come. So she invites Haman just in order to make the Jews lose faith in Esther. This is the inner strength of a woman who doesn't care what you think about me, because it's not that I don't care. I want to prove to you how tough I am, that I'll act like I don't care if you like me, not because I want to show you that I'm tougher than you. It's not that. I'm so confident in being who God wants me to be and who I am, I don't need to do something to prove it. The moment you need to prove who you are, you're insecure in who you are. Real feminism is I don't need to prove anything. That's why it's feminism. Yes, I'm still recording. Yeah, those who are still watching, I didn't look at the comments. Those who are still watching, good for you. Yeah, still recording. Okay, next time. Thank you for those watching. Thank you, Shira. Thank you, Eric. Thank you. Women have better support systems than men because of who they are. Yes, it's true. Better internal support systems. Shira says wonderful. See, Shira is good you stayed on. Okay, good evening, Linda and Faith and Lisa and everyone. Okay. Anyway, call it a night or not yet? What? No, to go. Okay, next. Baruch Hashem. What's next week's class going to be about? What? Let's do it. Let's farang. Let's go. Also, now it's a farang. Tainis Esther farang. I don't know. We'll go back to the Chumash. I don't know. I haven't thought about next week's class. Anyway, my friends, L'chaim, and God should bless you all. Here's the takeaway message for us. We should be strong like Esther. You got it? Good night, everyone. Take care.